Hello and welcome. This is Lights Out, and away we go with the episode. We're the Formula 1 podcast for fans, by fans. I'm Will, and as I look across the digital garage, as always, I'm joined by my co-host, or shall I say my co-driver, Sam. Good evening, Sam. How are you doing?
Good evening, Will. I'm great, thank you. Nice to be back on the pod with you again. How are you?
Yes, I'm very good, thank you. Yeah, had a busy weekend at a stag do for a friend's stag do, which was good fun in Bristol. How was your weekend?
It was very nice. Got to spend lots of time with my daughter. Went outside, did lots of walking.
Very good.
I played pickleball. What is
pickleball?
It's a kind of a cross between badminton, tennis, and table tennis, I suppose.
Wow.
But yeah, it's quite good. It's quite good fun. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm probably going to play again.
What racket do you use?
It's like a slightly bigger table tennis paddle.
Right.
So it's hard. It's not got strings or anything. And you play with like a little round plastic ball with holes in it, and it's we played indoors, and it's on like a sort of a badminton-ish sized court, and yeah, it was really good fun. So yeah, I'm gonna have another go, I think, later this week.
That sounds good fun. Good new sport there. One I've never heard of before.
Yeah.
We should say firstly, commiserations on the league title. Very sad. On behalf of all the listeners, condolences, and all the other listeners that are Arsenal fans as well. Condolences on the title battle. I know people have been enjoying me ribbing you about it, but I generally feel sorry for you this weekend.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. We'll be back next year. Don't worry.
That's the spirit. That's the spirit. And yes, and sadly, no Formula 1 this weekend. Sadly, due to the awful flooding in Italy. The Grand Prix was called off pretty early last week. By Wednesday, the damage was pretty much done. Really high water all across that region, and even I think the F2 garage that was starting to set up was already flooded, and they told the Alpine team to go home because it was so dangerous. And luckily and rightly, Formula 1 made the right call nice and early on. They didn't try and consider it, and with the emergency services focusing on responding to the emergency, it was good. It was good that Formula 1 didn't mess around with that and made a quite clear decision. We hope everyone is doing all right out there in Italy, and it's good to see also Formula 1 do some more good as well. I saw that they were donating all the food and drink that would have been consumed at the Grand Prix this weekend to the local people, which is really good. So that didn't go to waste. And so we obviously made predictions. We're obviously very excited to see the upgrades, and sadly we didn't have that, so we've got to wait that to part of some of those upgrades to come to Monaco. Others I think are waiting to Barcelona. But even though there was no action on track this weekend, Max Verstappen still managed to win this weekend. Yeah,
of course.
It was quite good. A group of drivers pulled together to sort of organise a virtual Imola race. And he won one of the. I think they did 3 races, and he won one of them. So, and they raised loads of money for the flood relief. So that was good on Max. So, but good to start another podcast with a Max win, as we true to form, even despite there being no Grand Prix. And so we obviously we're going to talk about the Grand Prix in today's episode, and we've had to come up with an emergency fun podcast, and we really have gone on the fun theme today. Now I'll hand over to you, Sam. Tell the listeners what can they expect from this special fun episode today.
So we'll do it in 2 halves. So the first half will be, I've called it the semi-serious section. It's not really that serious, but it's a bit more serious than what will follow in the second half after our jolly break. But in short, we're going to buzz through a load of kind of random questions about the sport. And give our kind of views and opinions on those particular questions, things we change, put ourselves in some interesting situations and see how it would play out. And yeah, we'll see how we go, but it should be good crack.
Interesting but funny at the same time.
Yeah, that's what we're aiming for.
Cool. And so, do you want to tee us off with the first question then because I should say you come up with all these questions, so I'll let you take the lead on this.
All right. Okay. So the first question is: if you could bring one rule or thing across from another sport and introduce it to Formula 1 in some way, what would it be?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. So my initial reaction was something sort of VAR related, because obviously that's a very sort of topical sort of sport thing. But obviously Formula 1 has that with the stewards, and you can't really have VAR really in Formula 1 because it's kind of done through the stewarding. I think I've got two things I would do. The first one, I think I'd I think I've said this before in other episodes. I'd be really interested to see Formula One test reverse grids, and 'cause they do that in other motorsport categories. And I think it'd be an interesting test to sort of for a sprint race to see what it's like. I think some of the best races we've had in recent years has been when someone like Lewis or Max has been at the back of the grid and they've had to sort of fight their way up through the grid. It's made it naturally a very interesting and exciting race. Apart from Miami, where Max did get through the field in no time at all.
13 laps.
Yeah, 13 laps. Yeah. But I think if the whole field flipped, that'd be quite interesting because you'd have Max at very last, and you could probably Checo just in front of him, and then they've obviously got to get through the other cars as well. And, it'd be interesting to see how far ahead could some of the back markers get before they get caught up, especially if it's a shorter race distance. I think it'd be really interesting, and if the sprint race continues to bore and not catch on, I wouldn't surprise me if they did a tester of it, if they did a no points or just for fun, just to test the format out. But I think those calls to do that will be coming more as the sprint race sort of struggles to establish itself. And it definitely seems like sprint races are here to stay. So yeah, that's my sort of copy that from another formula. Give it a go. Don't make a full race out of it. Just do like a sprint race, and to get the teams on board, just do it as a one-off where there's no points distributed, but just to test the spectacle of a sprint race. Maybe even just have the season, then agree to all stay in Abu Dhabi for an extra day or a week, just to do a sprint race that's just for fun, just to test it out rather than a testing session.
Yeah.
Yeah. What you thoughts on reverse grids?
I like it. I think you would have to find some way to incentivize the drivers to do it properly, because one of the problems we've got with the sprint race at the moment is because there aren't that many points on offer, and because there are obviously teams that are so much faster than others, there's not a huge amount of like on track fighting. They kind of let it go and just think, well, I don't really want to get into a scrap and potentially bin the car, cost my team hundreds of thousands of pounds, dollars, euros, whatever, and maybe hinder my Grand Prix on the Sunday. So you'd have to find a way to incentivize. I mean, maybe you could, I don't know, introduce some kind of forfeit or whatever, like make the teams wager how far up the grid they'll get if they start at the back and where they'll think they'll finish. And maybe they could take a leaf out of our predictions book, and have some kind of forfeit if they get the positions way out or something like that. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just joking. Something to incentivize them to properly race each other, I think you'd need. But I really like the idea. I think I wouldn't be surprised if they did try it at some stage.
Yeah. Well, I think as well, just like if you had it at the end of the season when like the World Championship is wrapped up, then it gives an opportunity just to like, well, there's nothing riding on this. Or, let's say, for example, as probably could happen this season, let's say the both World Championships are tied up really early on. So then we have a couple of races where, it doesn't really matter. Maybe they could just say, right, Abu Dhabi, we'll just do a one-off sprint race just for a bit of fun. Or maybe they could make Vegas the reverse grid, sort of add to the sort of, mixing things up at, gambling and odds and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Quite interesting.
Yeah.
My second idea, which I think is is not as serious and is not as straightforward as that one, is a bit more left field as well. I just had the idea of what was if every team had their own sort of like mascot, like a football team mascot that the ones that sort of go on the pitch beforehand. Just as an aside, I did actually have a job interview once to be the mascot for my team, Wigan Athletic, and sadly did not get the job because I didn't have enough mascot experience. But I did get an interview at the Wigan Stadium, which was quite surreal. But
nice.
Yeah, but I could have brought even more insight to what it's like to be a mascot for this bit now. But I'd like to see Formula One teams, have their own mascot. And I've done a bit of thinking of what they could be. So we could have Bill the Red Bull. Just a Red Bull walking around called Bill.
Nice.
This is a bit tenuous. You could have Aaron the Silver Arrow, just a chap dressed as the Silver Arrows, which I think is not really animal related, but
okay.
All right. Then you could have Enzo the Prancing Black Horse for Ferrari.
Oh, love that. That would be great.
Enzo Ferrari, and then
sold.
I don't. Maybe his family won't be that happy with that. And then with Williams, I thought you could have the Duracell bunny in a race suit. Bit boring, but it was hard to think of an animal for Williams. Walter the White Bull for AlphaTauri, because theirs is a white bull. An eagle for Haas, American, straightforward. Bulldog for Aston, straightforward. McLaren, I think you can have someone in a morph suit, sort of covered head to toe in all their sponsors. They wouldn't even have an animal. That's just what they would do, because they just got to make as much money as possible from sponsorship. So they just wouldn't have a mascot chap. They just have someone walking around in a morph suit with every with every sponsor they have. And then obviously Alfa Romeo, you'd have the green snake as the Peugeot logo. But I think quite cool, on the grid, seeing them all stood next to each other, all by their teams as they're waiting to start the race, and then also good for the crowds as well. If you had them walking around the Grand Prix at weekend, quite a good fun thing to copy from football.
Nice, yeah, I like that. I think that could be good fun. I mean, that would make the grid walks with Martin Brundle a whole lot. That would add a whole new element, wouldn't it?
yeah. I think again, like people like Tom Cruise posing for a photo with Enzo the Black Prancing Horse. That'd be quite entertaining. I think there'd be some very good photos from it.
Definitely. No, I'm very on board with that. I mean, I'm as someone who's a bit of a traditionalist and I don't really like much gimmickiness in Formula One. I actually really love that idea. So
that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Is that because as Arsenal you've got Gunnosaurus, the dinosaur as well thing, so you can see the benefits of having a good mascot?
Yeah, it definitely does add something. I mean, I'm obviously a man of my 30s, so there's a limit to how much excitement I get from seeing a mascot at a football match. But for those significantly younger than us, yes, they do get quite out. My nephew loves seeing Gunnosaurus for the first time. So, there's definitely some benefit to it and keeping kind of younger people interested in the sport. I just think why not? Why not? What could go wrong?
Yeah, exactly. And also, you could, like in they do it sometimes in football. They have like the mascot sprint races. Imagine if you like a general sprint, not an actual Formula 1 sprint race, but imagine if you then had a mascot, sprint race down the home straight. That'd be quite entertaining, seeing them all running along each other. But those are my ideas. What would you bring across from other sports and introduce into Formula 1?
So I've also gone for another racing format kind of change, and that would be introduce a Le Mans running style start.
Oh, they've got to run and jump into the car.
Yeah, and then put all the stuff, put all the harness on and everything, and obviously pop the steering wheel in, do the start procedure, and go. I feel like it would add something to the start of a race. Plus, you'd get to test out your speed and fitness on the drivers. I don't know how long a running start would need to be, but like enough to make
meters?
it
30 meters.
Yeah, maybe something like that would be good.
Now, my only comment on this is that because of how narrow the cockpit is, they can't put their belts on themselves. So would they have to pick someone from their team to run with them to help get them buckled up? And also, it would be quite insane because you would have to see people try and vault over the halo pretty quickly.
Yes.
I think you would see some instances of people like just completely bailing and flying over the top.
I know, and that would definitely add something. Yes, you probably would, wouldn't you? Yeah, unless you're gonna introduce some kind of new harness system that makes it much easier for drivers to strap themselves in, which I wouldn't be above doing. Why not have somebody else run with them? Have Lewis and Angela, I guess it would have been, charging to the car and strapping him in ready to go.
Or I'll tell you what you could do. You could have Toto Wolff running with both George and Lewis, and the team principal's got to run with both drivers, and then he's got to sort of pick which one he wants to get buckled in first, and then that'd be quite entertaining. I mean, Christian Horner would always go for Max, but
of course,
I think I'd back Toto to be quite good at a sprint race to try and get into the drivers buckled up quickly.
Yeah, that would introduce a whole new level of inter-team politics, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Gunther Steiner would just be swearing the whole time.
Yeah, I think it would be a fun spectacle. I'd enjoy it. And so my other one is definitely not racing related, but it's I would take the rule from ice hockey that makes fighting legal.
Oh, for goodness sake. What do you mean fighting? Do you mean like punch-up fighting, or you can deliberately hit each other in your cars?
No. So I wouldn't condone them driving into each other at 150, 200 miles an hour. That would be extremely silly. Whereas clearly what I'm suggesting is very sensible, Will. So the way it works in ice hockey is if there are two players with some beef of some kind, they agree that they're going to have a fight, and they drop their gloves, and then the game stops, and then they have a fight, and the first one to hit the deck loses, and then they both go and serve a penalty in the box for a bit. But everyone is agreed that like this is a thing and it's allowed to happen, and it's a good way of teams settling, or individuals settling a dispute on the ice. And I just think it would be fun in Formula One. So if you have like an instant, for example, I don't know, between Max and someone, because let's face it, it's likely to be Max and someone, or Fernando Alonso and someone, and or like George and Valtteri, for example, that crash they had a couple seasons back. You just have an agreement in place that if both drivers are absolutely fuming with each other and decide they want to drop the helmets and have a quick dust up, crack on. First one to hit the deck loses.
So everyone else has to stop what they're doing. Every car stops in position. The whole race pauses while they just have a bit of a meek fist fight, and then
Yeah,
it
so you
continues
go
again.
into a virtual safety car mode. The gap stays the same while the two drivers settle their dispute, and then they crack on.
It's a no from me.
I thought it might be.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's just leave that one there. That's a no from me.
All right. My next question is: if you could pick any teammate to drive with you in F1, past or present, who would you pick?
Ooh, that's a good question. So as everyone knows, I'm a Lewis Hamilton fanboy till I die. I do think that would be quite cool to be Lewis's teammate, but I also think I'd be a bit in awe of him all the time, and I'd give him too much respect, and I think he would absolutely spank me, and I'd lose all the time.
Yeah.
And I think psychologically as well, if I was going up against him, I'd find it really hard. So I'd politely decline being his teammate. I actually think Daniel Ricciardo, Danny Rick, would be a good teammate to have because he's very funny, which I'd like to think we'd have a good laugh. But also, I think we'd both be quite competitive and we'd work together to sort of really push the team and sort of deliver. And I think we've only sort of mentioned Daniel Ricciardo, but I should say, I think Daniel Ricciardo is one of the best drivers on the grid, and it's a real shame that he's kind of lost his way a bit, really. He's lost his confidence and he's lost his seat, and his kind of time is running out for him to be a Formula One standout. Really, I think he's going to sort of go down the history books really as the guy that always made the wrong career move at the wrong time. Which is a shame because when Ricciardo was at Red Bull with Vettel and then with Max, he was really, really strong, and he won. I think he's won 7 or 8 races, and he won those on driver skill, on him outmaneuvering, some of the brilliant last minute overtakes that he became sort of famous for, and that was what was really sad about seeing him go to McLaren, because he lost all confidence in himself, and his ability just sort of disappeared. And towards the end of his time at Renault, he was really starting to sort of look quite confident in that car. But yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame his career has gone the way it has, really, because if he'd stayed at Red Bull, I think he would have been a real threat, and he would have been probably a good teammate for Max throughout that period. Really, they wouldn't have had all the problems they've had with trying to find him a good teammate. So yeah, I think I'd go with Danny Rick. I think me and him would get the best out of each other. We'd also have a good time. The sponsors would love us because we'd always be chatting. We'd feature a lot in Drive to Survive, but fundamentally, I think we'd be good, fair races against each other, and I'd want him to do well as my teammate rather than resent him.
A fine choice.
Thank you. I actually saw Danny Ricciardo race when he was in British Formula 3 when this must be 2007, 2008. And I'm generally not making this up. We were at Alton Park, me, my dad, and my brother, and we were watching the Formula 3 race, and the commentator generally said, I remember this, the commentator generally said, as Daniel Ricciardo was like winning races miles and miles ahead of everyone else, just was rapid and that sort of stage. And I remember the commentator saying, this guy is going to go to Formula 1, and soak this in now because he's going to go all the way to the top. And I'm like, I'll make a note of his name. And then I remember always sort of following his career a bit, really. And then, yeah, it was good to see that everyone else sort of became massive Daniel Ricciardo fans as well, because I think he's a great chap and a great racer.
Yeah, no, I agree. An outstanding bloke. Yeah, I think he'd be a really good teammate. Good choice.
Who'd be your teammate?
So Ricciardo crossed my mind, as did a few others. Sebastian Vettel, I think, could be quite good. See, I think he'd be a good teammate, but he's not.
Why do you think he'd be a good teammate?
I think he's not it depends what you want from a teammate, right? Like my personal preference would be someone who I could have a laugh with, but that I know if I was half decent at racing a car, I could probably beat them. Whereas Häkkinen was so good, I'm not really like in the same kind of Hamilton bracket you're thinking about. I think Häkkinen would probably batter me every week, and he's also not the most. I wouldn't say he's the most chatty kind of whimsical character. Like he can be, but that's not really his MO. So no, I didn't really think about Mika too much. But yeah, Sebastian Vettel, Rubens Barrichello, there are a few others that I considered. Anyway, funnily enough, I've also gone for a former Red Bull driver who happens to be Australian. I've gone for Mark Webber. Yeah.
Ooh, that's interesting. Mate. Now give the listeners who may not know who Mark Webber is a bit of background on the Aussie legend that is Mark Webber.
Yeah, so yeah, obviously came from Australia, joined Formula One in early 2000s, I think, probably. And worked his way up through the ranks and was generally a very good driver. But he was famously, I mean, he's not most famous for this, but he's arguably most famous for this, being Sebastian Vettel's teammate during that period of dominance that Vettel enjoyed for those 4 years between 2010 and 2014. And he and Sebastian Vettel ended up having quite a frayed relationship because they were quite competitive. Webber was actually quite close to Vettel in terms of performance, and Vettel did a few things that were probably considered a bit naughty. Sort of went against team orders and raced him and stuff, and when he shouldn't have done. And yeah, it didn't end too well. I mean, they get on really well now, obviously, and this tends to happen with all great rivalries in Formula One. They get on great when as soon as they get out of the car and retire. But yeah, I just really liked him. I thought he's just a sound bloke again. I think he'd be good fun. Like loves a beer, doesn't take life super seriously. Yeah, probably not on the kind of Daniel Ricciardo levels of like you're going to go out after every race weekend and have an absolute blinder of an evening. But yeah, just a good solid bloke, nice guy. And yeah, in the context of kind of assuming that I'm in an F1 car because I'm quite good at driving a Formula One car, he's probably someone I'd fancy my odds of beating over the course of the season too.
Yeah, I mean, he you should say he was very likable at a period. I think a lot of people didn't warm to Vettel because he was just ruthless and he was just so at that period in his career, he was just unstoppable.
Yep.
And Webber was just trying to do everything he could to sort of wrest it from there. I don't know this off the top of my head, but I would be intrigued to go back and look through Vettel's World Championships to see how big the gap was between him and Webber in the final standings. Because most often it was sort of Webber was second or third in those standings, and he did really push him, and he won plenty of races as well, which is a nice thing to see as well. It shows his level of skill. I would say he's probably one of the best sort of like if Red Bull's had that sort of star driver, whether it's Max or Vettel, he's always been. I'd say he's probably one of the best, if not the best, second driver they've had in sort of terms of performance and speed. I mean, I obviously really rate Daniel Ricciardo, and I thought he was really good. But actually, if you look at what Webber achieved in that period, he was very close and really pushed Vettel to some of those World Championships. And I feel like unlucky because if the surge in popularity to Formula One had happened when he was in the sport, I think he'd be a massive character and be really well known and really well liked. It's actually like I think he's probably quite a niche character, and you kind of if you watch Channel 4's Formula One coverage, he's one of the commentators on that, and he regularly appears that as well. And he sometimes appears doing the pit lane podium interviews as well. But yeah, that's a good pick, and also a good way to cover off a good recent Formula One legend that probably wouldn't have had much airtime on this podcast. So yeah, strong choice there, Sam.
Thanks, mate. So our next question, and it's something we've discussed quite a few times on a number of different podcasts now, and it concerns liveries, our favourite. So the question is, what non-F1 related brand would you like to see sponsor a team and or develop the livery for a car?
So I just say, for those that are new to Formula One, a livery is the design of the car. So all the vinyls and all the color schemes that the car have. So the black of the Mercedes and all that as well. So before I answer the question, I should tease something to look out for if you're going to watch the Monaco Grand Prix this weekend. There are rumours that because Gulf Oil and Williams have a sponsorship deal with each other, there's rumours that there's going to be a special one-off Williams livery for this weekend. And we always like a good livery, a one-off livery at a Grand Prix. I mean, let's not mention the Miami Red Bull one, which is a bit pathetic. But for those that didn't know, Gulf Oil were sort of iconic. They've sponsored Formula One teams before, but they've done lots of motorsport sponsorship. And when they've had the livery of their colours on the car, it's a really nice like sky light blue, and then they're orange. And McLaren were actually sponsored by Gulf Oil 2 years ago, and they had a one-off livery for Monaco. If you want to see what it looks like, go and have a look at the Lights Out Pod, our Instagram there, and I'll post a photo of the McLaren Gulf special livery. But on what brand, going back to your question now, on what brand I would like to see come to sponsor Formula One team, I've got one really good idea. I think I'd love to see Amazon sponsor a Formula One team and fully sponsor a team. It almost be like Amazon Aston Martin, I don't know, or like Amazon Alfa Romeo, whatever. But so they could fully design the car, so the whole sort of car looked like something Amazon related. And this was partly from me sitting where I work and looking down across the room and seeing an Amazon package in the room. If you had the side pods as like the Amazon sort of like line smiley face thing, I think that'd be quite cool design. But then like a color scheme, so it looked a bit like an Amazon like cardboard box. And then you could sort of say, oh, you know, really fast delivery. This looks like a cardboard box.
Very good.
But also, you then advertise on it. You know, have like Echo and Alexa and stuff like that dotted around those, sort of filling up some of the sponsorship spaces in the car. But then also they could also promote. This is my really good idea. They could also then promote like latest releases of stuff that's coming to Prime Video. We've seen that before in Formula One, where like I think was it Red Bull? They did a deal with like Star Wars for one-off, and they had like a Star Wars livery, which I'll also put on the Instagram. Or like, you know, when Red Bull was sponsored also by James Bond, they had 007 on the rear wing for the British Grand Prix. There's been some good film sort of Formula One tie-ins, so they could do that when they're promoting new stuff as well. And I don't know if you've seen the TV series The Boys on Amazon Prime.
I have.
Very good sort of anti-superhero sort of black comedy that's on there. They could definitely do some fun with that. You know, just got pictures of people dressing up as, you know, the drivers' outfits being like Homelander suits. I think that'd be quite entertaining. But yeah, that was from just looking at an Amazon box. I had that whole sort of imagination of what Amazon could look like if they were a sponsor of a big of a Formula One team and sort of took over. Yeah, that's probably my favorite one. I did though on the Gran Turismo 5 game, which I play on my PlayStation. There's quite a cool thing is where you can like buy cars and then you can view other people's liveries. And I had the Formula One sort of equivalent car they had on it, and that was always quite cool. Like putting in like, I think I had like a PlayStation theme, or you know, like an England theme, or I think it was an Apple one as well, a Sony one, and then loads of iconic ones as well. So yeah, I enjoyed sort of exploring that. But yeah, I'd say Amazon's my brand that I'd really like to see come into a sponsor team and completely take over the look of a car. I think that would be quite entertaining and would look really cool. What about you?
That's a good. I like that one. Yeah, and it would give you the opportunity as well as team principal to say, "Oh, we've got a really quick package this weekend." As having Amazon as your sponsor, and yeah, in a similar vein, I thought about. So I thought about again. I thought it'd be quite funny that like if you had a car sponsored by a company that's famous for delivering stuff quickly, so like a FedEx or Papa John's or Domino's or something like that. I thought it'd be quite funny. A couple of other ones that I really liked the idea of. So one would be a Nintendo themed car, particularly like a Pokemon style type livery. I feel like that could be quite fun. Nice. But the one I've gone for, or the one that I like the most, so when I was drafting these questions, I obviously went on the internet and started using some terrifyingly effective AI. For all those experts out there who said AI was going to replace our kind of manual labor force, great, thanks for that, because it's turned out they're actually replacing all of our creativity and creative jobs instead, which is not the plan. And yeah, I actually put a few kind of things into like chatbots and stuff, and they spat out a load of design cars in those cars designed according to the brands that I put in, and the one I liked the most was Pepsi. Funnily enough, I just thought it popped, looked really good. Yeah, like blue, red, and white, looked really smart. So yeah, Pepsi would be the one I'd go for. Look good.
And then you could have different, like, you know, one car could look like just normal Pepsi, and one could then look like Pepsi Max.
Exactly, yeah, Pepsi Max, yeah, quite. I wonder who tried that one.
Cool. We should go into business. We should go and advise companies about what their liveries could look like. I mean, neither of us can design, but if we can make AI work, then we've got a good little side hustle here, consulting with brands about why they should invest in Formula One and what it would look like on a car.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, we often joke, don't we, that Red Bull's livery designers are some of the laziest in Formula One, albeit they have to promote their product, don't they? So they probably wouldn't go for like promoting Pepsi or Mountain Dew or another drink of choice. But I'm sure, yeah, other teams definitely hit us up.
Yeah, definitely. You know where to find us.
Absolutely. All right, short and sweet, quick fire question: who's your favourite pundit / commentator in Formula One? And why?
Ooh, there's a good range of questions here. We've gone from all sorts of stuff, you know, to format, to teammates, to now what the cars look like, and now to actually the coverage of it as well.
Yep.
Mine's is easy. Martin Brundle, who we covered in our last week's episode of the most underrated drivers. So definitely go and check that out if you've not listened to it already. Martin Brundle as a pundit and as a commentator, he does both, so double tick. He's very insightful. He comes off some really good like sort of takes on things and provides really good analysis on situations. I've listened to him quite a few times this year talk about sort of his observations on the performance of Lewis and how Lewis is coping. I find that I learn a lot from just sort of listening to his take. He's obviously very knowledgeable as well, having been a former driver, and he's obviously got good sources across the grid. He's also very well liked. All the drivers love speaking to him as well. But also he's very good humoured as well. He's not too dry and too boring. I find he makes it really engaging. And that's probably why I think some Formula One has sort of done very well on TV in recent years, is because Sky have absolutely nailed their commentators. And whenever he's not able to commentate a race, lots of people complain because the quality really drops because he's so outstanding at his job. People like Paul Di Resta, who used to commentate at Sky, used to infuriate us frequently.
Yes.
And he probably would have won numerous Latifis if we've been doing this podcast for the last 3 years. But alas, he's been sacked, and Sky have bucked their ideas up. But also, I think as well, Martin Brundle deserves real credit for sort of making sort of the grid walk a real event. And that could be something that could be so forgotten about, and you don't really need to watch it. But I don't know about you, but I always make a point of tuning in like 20 minutes early so I can catch that, because not only will he be good at sort of speaking to the drivers, and he gets to all the big drivers before the race starts to get their sort of take on stuff, but he's also very good at like catching the celebrities and sort of making that very entertaining and enjoyable watch as well. Sort of seeing him interview like Serena Williams or Usain Bolt or Jeremy Clarkson, he's very good at sort of speaking. Like he's quite good at sort of persevering and sort of trying to get an interview no matter what, as we saw in Miami. So yeah, I think he's brilliant, and he's a real credit to sort of Sky's coverage. And I think he really adds to the sport in a similar sort of way to someone like Gary Neville. I know you don't like Gary Neville at the moment. You're pretty anti Gary Neville for all his anti-Arsenal chat, but he's a very good football pundit, and I find him very insightful as well. But yeah, that's my answer for you. How about you? Who've you picked?
Oh, that was good. That was so good until you mentioned Gary Neville. No, I'm with you. I'm with you on Martin Brundle. He's brilliant. Good choice. You can guess mine. 100%.
Ted Kravitz.
It is, yeah, Ted Kravitz. I really love Murray Walker as well, but no, I've gone for Ted Kravitz. I love his nerdiness. I love his humour. I love that he just walks around in shorts, talks to everybody exactly the same, regardless of who they are, be it the drivers or cleaners after the race. Just a really top bloke. So yeah, Ted Kravitz for the win.
A good thing good about Ted Kravitz is he's not afraid to speak truth to power. He's quite good at sort of calling out Abu Dhabi and all the mess of that as well. Whereas a lot of commentators acted like nothing happened or everything was completely normal, which is not very good really. But good choice. Good choice.
He's definitely a man who speaks his mind, doesn't he? Which is great. All right, and then the last question of this section: if you were given the opportunity to drive one lap in a Formula One car, which circuit would you choose?
Oh, this is a really hard one, because there are obviously some brilliant circuits in Formula One. Like to go and drive Monaco, or to go and drive in Spa. A really legendary circuit, or Baku would be quite good fun. But the problem I have with some of these ones I've just said then is that you really don't. If you've only got say if you got one lap to do it in, and that's it. You don't get a second chance. You've got to be confident you can do it on a circuit where you're not going to crash. So you don't want, but then at the same time you don't want to do something that's really like dull. So I'm thinking of Monza, which is quite straightforward. Or what other sort of obvious boring tracks are there? Catalonia, bit dry, not that exciting to drive.
Yeah. I think Saudi. I thought about Saudi. It was too dangerous.
Yeah, exactly. You wouldn't want to have the opportunity. Like Monaco would be amazing, but I don't think I struggle in the Formula One game. I would definitely struggle if I sat in the car. So I've gone for Silverstone for a number of reasons. Home Grand Prix, so that'd be quite cool to say I've driven at my home race. Also, I just love the Silverstone circuit. It's just so fast. I think 70% of it is full throttle, which is so that makes it easier kind of to drive, because you don't really have to take your foot off the accelerator for much. So that'd be quite good fun.
Yep.
Fast bends. I think also you'd really get to feel the car. If you drove a lap around Silverstone, you'd be like, oh, Formula One cars, they're an amazing piece of machinery. The speed, the way they can take corners. I think they would really show off a Formula One car. So if that was my only other lap driving a Formula One car, I'd know I'd have a really good experience. And I feel like I'd be fairly confident in not bending it. I think there's enough spare ground to drive off, runoff tracks to go off onto, that if I did have a wide moment, I could just recover it. I wouldn't be, smashing the cars to pieces. Yeah. What about you? Which one would you pick?
Yeah, that's a good choice. So I had a choice of three. My
Ooh.
runners up are Brazil and Suzuka, both
Ooh,
both
good
really good.
circuits, iconic circuits.
Yeah, but
So what have you
I've
what
gone
have you
for
got for your first
Spa.
one?
It's a bit of a
Okay.
cheat answer because it's the longest circuit, so I feel like I'd get the most value,
Yeah, that's
most
fair. And
time in the car.
you'd get a good test as well because you got that good straights in it. Some tight corners as well. Although, would you not be worried about Spa the bit when you've got to drive up the hill flat out at the very
Yeah,
start?
Eau Rouge would be terrifying for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
But why not give it
You
a
could
go?
just
And I just love that race. Like I
you
just
could
love
just
the
creep
setting
you
as
could
well.
just creep up that one. Just like put it in first gear. Just take your time up it, and then as soon as you get to the top, then floor it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because the straight afterwards really good. Is really long as well. So yeah, you could definitely build up some speed afterwards. But yeah, no, I just love that Grand Prix. Love the circuit. I love the setting as well in the Ardennes
Mm.
Forest. It's just a
Mm.
great race. So as long as it's not heaving down with rain, in which case I definitely wouldn't because it would be terrifying. But yeah, Spa for me all day.
I've heard that sometimes it rains at one part of the circuit because the track is so long. One part of the circuit is raining, the other bit isn't. So that'd be quite a good experience to sort of experience a bit of wet weather. But
Yeah.
probably not. You probably just want perfect conditions, wouldn't you? Nice clear sunny day.
Yep. Right, that brings us to the end of the first section. So we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back after this.
Hello, welcome back from the break. Hope you had a jolly old time. We had a very jolly old time here, just cracking jokes to one another. Very much in the fun mood today, aren't we, Sam?
We are.
So you teased in the first half that the first half was the semi-serious section. Now this is the dubbed silly section.
Yes.
How silly are we getting here? Is this going to get turned into absolute nonsense, or is this going to be still entertaining?
It'll be a total nonsense the second half. Yeah, I mean, if you're in any way wanting some serious analysis for Formula One listener, now is the time to tune out because we've just got some silly questions now. Okay, would you like your first question, Will?
Go on, fire away.
Okay, if you had to pick one driver for your daughter to bring home as her boyfriend, who would you choose?
I mean, this is a hard one because I don't have a daughter, so I don't have any children, so it's not something I've had to think about at all. But I would probably go for Alex Albon. Seems a proper nice chap. Just seems very well mannered. Comes across well on TV. Just seems a nice bloke. But also the thing about Alex Albon is he always posts really nice things about his girlfriend on Instagram. His girlfriend is like a really successful golfer, and he always sort of praises her and sort of highlights her and stuff. So yeah, I'd probably go for him because I know he would look after my hypothetical daughter well, and I feel like I'd have good chats with him, and he'd get me good backstage sort of access at Williams. Yeah, how about you?
He does. Yeah, I might disagree with you about Albon. He does seem like an exceptionally nice guy. Do you think he's the nicest? Do you think he's the nicest driver on the grid? I think he might be. Yeah.
Yeah. There's no one jumping out at me that makes me think there's someone nicer than him. Yeah, I'll go him. Who have you picked for is this for your daughter? Is this how your daughter's going to get into Formula One?
Well, and this is something
you're matchmaking her now. That's her way in.
No, I'm not matchmaking in such a way that's how she get. No, she's going to get in on merit. Will she's going to be 2042 Formula One World Champion because she's the quickest, not because she was dating said driver.
Who is?
I've gone for Charles Leclerc.
Nice.
He's just a nice bloke, isn't he? He just seems quite nice. Very, very polite. Also, nice trips to Monaco, and
true.
He drives a Ferrari, which is pretty cool.
But he is a bit grumpy sometimes.
He can be a bit grumpy.
And you've heard him scream from the bottom of his soul when he crashed the car in France last year. And I don't know if I could look at someone like that after hearing them emit that noise.
That was a low point. But
it was awful. For those that didn't watch it, it was awful. It was proper like a like blood curdling sort of scream, wasn't it? Him just sat there in his car.
It was in France, wasn't it? It was a Paul Ricard. Yeah. So, but that at least so that also gives me as a father a bit of an advantage because it's something I can mock him for. Like Alex Albon comes home. What am I going to mock him for? He's tall, he's handsome, he's nice, and he's a Formula One driver. Like
being a Red Bull failure. I'd just sit there with a can of Red Bull, being like, "Evening."
But he's not. I don't know if he's ever. Has he done anything embarrassing? I don't think so.
Failed at Red Bull.
Well, okay, yeah, but so has Gasly, and I mean the list
Yeah,
of
true.
drivers that have failed at Red Bull
True.
is as long as your arm.
No,
So,
that would be a bit harsh, actually. Yeah, fair enough.
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, whereas with Charles, I could be like, now Charles, I know you're getting a bit upset, but are you like Paul Ricard 2022 upset?
Or your phone ringtone could be him just screaming.
Yes, but yeah, no, I've gone for Charles Leclerc. I think that's a
Nice.
sound choice as well.
Well, I look forward to the wedding of your daughter and Charles Leclerc.
God. All right. Next question. If you had to pick a driver to be your Uber driver home, who would you pick?
Who would I pick? I would go for, on the topic of Charles Leclerc, I'd go for Charles Leclerc.
Okay.
Because I think he'd get me home nice and quick, which is good because he's probably the quickest over a lap at the moment. I also think he's quite good fun. As you said, he seems like a nice chap. I think he'd be quite entertaining. Sort of would have a good chat from, I'd be sitting in the back of his Ferrari and he'd be chatting away to me about what it's like to be a Formula One driver and knowing the streets of Monaco like the back of his hand. And also, he would have a brilliant soundtrack for the car journey because he put on his piano music, so we could just listen to that as he drove me home. I think that'd be quite good.
I've not listened to his piano music. Is it?
Oh, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for?
Is it good?
Yeah. I mean, let me find my phone. I'll see if I can find the next.
Are we about to break some copyright rules?
No, I think if we play a very brief period of it.
Okay. All right.
Here we go. Charles Leclerc. He's got 2 songs now. His first song has had over 4 million plays on it. Right, here we go. Hang on.
It's got a very nice soothing tone.
Yeah, imagine at the end of a night out being driven home to this.
Yeah, that's not what I'd expect from him. He's a kind of chuck. Well, as we've discussed, he's a kind of on the limit, chuck the car and hope for the best kind of driver. So
yeah.
I hadn't really imagined it would be something as. It sounds like kind of hotel lobby music, calm.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend checking it out on Spotify. There's only 2 songs, but if you've enjoyed that bit of interlude there, it might help you, relax when you're trying to relax. So yeah,
nice.
Who have you picked?
I've gone for Pierre Gasly.
Ooh, why?
So speedy, but not too speedy, and that would be another concern I'd have about Charles. Like, he is so fast. Like, I would hope that I wasn't already feeling a bit queasy from quite a heavy night out getting into a car with him, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Whereas with Gasly, I think he'd be speedy, but not too speedy. He's also just got good banter, I think. Like, he's got quite good chat, like his relationship with Daniel Ricciardo and others. Like, he seems like a sound lad. And I think he's got some quite good music choices as well, if memory serves. Like, him and Ricciardo used to listen to beats and stuff together quite regularly. So, yeah, I pick Pierre Gasly.
Fair.
Thought I'd give you a good choice.
Fair. Strong choice.
All right, and we're on to our final question, which is a 2-parter.
Okay.
So part 1, pick 3 Formula One folk, drivers, pundits, team principals, whoever you want, to join you for a night out. And the second part of the question, which driver would you pick to back you up if that night out descended into a pub brawl? Okay.
So I think for the 3 I'd want to be on night out with, I think Carlos Sainz, I think he'd be good crack.
Okay.
I think I'd enjoy I think he's quite a funny bloke, and I think I enjoy sort of chatting.
Would you like some more beers, Will?
Yeah, nice. I don't know what the end of that sentence was, but the rest of it
Scottish very quickly.
Yeah, and a bit of Yoda as well. But the start of it was good. Wait, what is it when you do Carlos Sainz? No, I can't do it. You do the Carlos Sainz bit better than you do. I thought you were going to do it then, but no.
I could do it. My name is Carlos Sainz. I drive for Ferrari.
Yeah, no, that was good, but I can only hear Yoda now. I've said that. I picked Lewis as well. I think I'd have a very cool time with Lewis. He'd get me into cool places. He'd know all the best places to go. I think he'd be a good laugh. And then I actually think George would be quite good fun. I think he'd be up for a good time. He'd sink a fair few beers, and we'd have a good laugh. If there was a pub brawl, who would I want to sort of back me up? I'd probably want to go Max, because he would fight dirty just like he does, just like he races. He would just do anything he could to win. He'd kick people in the balls. He would do whatever. He'd pull hair. He'd bite people and then he would have claimed that he was well within his right to do that. So I think I can't see anyone losing in a fight to Max Verstappen in a pub brawl.
Okay, well that's quite a mix of individuals you've got there. I'd say your three drinking partners are all quite. I'd say they're quite calm individuals.
I did weigh up Gunter, but I think he would just swear all the time. I don't think he'd get on well with others. And then maybe Toto, but then Toto would be quite good in a fight as well. We've seen Toto angry, but then I realised the question was which driver, not which F1 person.
Yes, so your backup has to be a driver, but the rest of your drinking buddies can be whoever.
Yeah. Do you know what, on Toto? I didn't know this. Apparently, he's like a massive sex symbol. Apparently, loads of women think he's absolutely drop dead gorgeous, which he's caught me by surprise.
Yeah, I can see that. He's quite a handsome man. Yeah, I mean, he's quite.
I enjoy his just his chat. Really, I think I don't really. Can't really judge him on his looks, but yeah, that surprised me.
Yeah, he's quite an inspirational kind of character as well.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. But who have you picked for your?
Okay, so for my epic night out, I've picked Kimi Räikkönen.
Nice,
straight in there, number one, because everyone
wouldn't say a word. Would look fucking cool.
Well, okay, so the thing about Kimi Räikkönen to know is he wouldn't say a word, but apparently, as soon as you put a beer in him, he turns into an absolute monster.
Okay, yeah, I wish I picked him now.
So, because I remember there was a press conference years ago, and Kimi Räikkönen used to host these like big end of season parties apparently at his house, and all drivers would go, and they did a press conference I think a day or two afterwards, and Kimi was still hungover from the weekend before, and I think the other drivers that were in the press conference were there as well, and they were all having like a big laugh about it, and none of the press could understand what was going on, and then it came out that they'd had a massive party anyway. So yeah, Raikkonen was straight away top of my list, and then I've picked his compatriot Valtteri Bottas. Just a bit of a like a bit of a rogue character. Yeah. Just think he'd be quite a fun addition. Like he'd come out with some absolute randomness.
True, that's fair.
And then my third pick is Toto Wolff.
Nice.
Just why not? Be a good crew.
Good. That's a good crew. Very different vibes to my crew. But
yeah, I'm expecting. I've gone in. I'd go in expecting a spicy night out with those three. I think it would be good. And then Pierre Gasly can drive us all home.
Nice. And who do you have in the fight?
Magnussen all day.
Yeah, he would play dirty.
He would. He's tough.
Yeah,
I'd like my odds with Kevin Magnussen in my corner.
But I still think Max would beat him in a fight.
He probably would. He'd find a way, but Max just finds a way to win anyway. In everything, doesn't he?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. That was fun. I enjoyed that.
So yeah, I hope you listening enjoyed learning some new things about Formula 1 that we've some people who covered in detail there that we've not covered before, and also enjoyed some of our answers. And if you know any Formula 1 fans, why don't you put those questions to them and see what answers you get from them.
Absolutely.
And so with Imola, we didn't have our predictions get tested, and so we've decided that we're going to revisit the predictions, but we're going to keep the same people. So remind me, Sam, for Monaco, who have I got?
So you've got number 13. That's Valtteri Bottas, who you predicted to finish 12th in Imola. Do you want to revise that prediction?
Yes. Okay. I think he's going to finish 15th.
Oh dear, poor Valtteri. Okay.
Yeah. He's not going to do well.
All right, 15th. Then you had number 18, Alex Albon. You went for him to finish 13th. Everyone's favourite, lovely boyfriend material, Alex Albon.
I'll go 12th.
Oh, okay.
I think he'll have a good qualify.
All right. And then number 4, GOAT, Hamilton. You had him finishing 5th in Imola.
No, I'm not going to get carried away. I don't think the new upgrades are going to put him straight to the front of the grid. I think he will.
Just imagine if he wins the race, Will. How will you feel if Hamilton qualifies on pole on Saturday and then wins the race on Sunday?
That would be amazing. That'd be such a high moment, I think, especially Monaco as well. I will go. I reckon he'll go 4th.
Okay, all right. So you've gone up a place for Lewis. All right. Okay, so I had number 1, Max Verstappen. I had him first for Imola, and I am revising it.
Yes, because you did famously predict several weeks ago that Charles Leclerc was going to win. So
absolutely right. So
second?
I'm yes, absolutely right. Max Verstappen's going to finish second, and Charles Leclerc is going to win because he's due. That's how this works. There's no no logic to that prediction. Instincts alone. And then I've got number 10, so that's Pierre Gasly. I had him finishing 9th, I think, in Imola. I'm going to stick with that, I think.
Nice.
And then George Russell, I had number 6. I had him finishing 5th, and I'm going to revise that. And no, I had him finishing 4th, and I'm going to revise that and move him down a place to 5th.
So our Lewis and George predictions have switched.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because I've got a feeling like Monaco's is very different, obviously a very different track to Imola, and I think, I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe Mercedes will have done something miraculous, and we'll see some serious progress, and they'll be up the grid. But I think Red Bull and Aston Martin and Ferrari will probably all have a quicker package, most likely for Monaco, particularly Ferrari, and particularly with Charles. So,
well, it's a slam dunk win for him then.
Come on, Charles, you can do it.
I'm going to go with my normal prediction because we still do predict the race winner. I'm going to go for Max. I still think it'll be Paul and he'll win.
All right. Well, we shall see. That brings us to the end of the pod. Thanks very much for joining us. Remember to subscribe and leave a review on your podcast platform of choice. If you did enjoy it, why don't you share the podcast with a friend? Hopefully they enjoy the pod more than Lewis and George will enjoy testing a brand new car on a tight, narrow street circuit where they'll probably have limited new parts to play with.
It's bold. It's bold from Mercedes.
It is. Yeah. No better place to test a car.
Desperate measures and all that.
Yeah. You can follow us on Twitter at Lights Out Lads, and on Instagram, as Will mentioned earlier, we are at the Lights Out Pod. Will, we're leaving the glitz and glamour of podcasting from my basement and your spare room, respectively, to the really boring, grey, basic, not very glamorous Monaco. No, I'm joking. We're going to Monaco. It's the most glamorous race on the calendar.
But it has got a rival in Vegas. Does that count as glamorous or not?
I don't know if Vegas is glamorous. Well, I guess we'll find out.
Yeah. Well, fine. We're saying fine. Similar sort of the gambling and all that sort of. That's a big thing that in the casinos. That's a big thing that always gets traded out. Monaco. So
if it's like Ocean's 11, then yeah, glamorous. But if you're talking like Hangover films, it's much less glamorous.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to wait till November to see which film it turns out to be like. But yeah, no, it should. I mean, hopefully, it will be an interesting race. No guarantees. Qualifying will be the big one really, because I think that's where a lot of people will finish. I think by their qualifying.
Yeah.
But also with Monaco, we have seen freak weather before that sort of rustled things up a bit. I don't know what the forecast is. Fingers crossed there's a bit of rain at some point. But also, like we say, it's such a hard circuit to overtake, and it's such a hard and demanding circuit to drive that hopefully there could be some unexpected crashes and some safety cars or red flags, and that could spice up the grid as well. We've known many a good driver has crashed at Monaco. Max Verstappen, looking at you. Hopefully it's a good one.
Question for you, Will. Do you think we will see any overtakes on track at all on Sunday?
I think you'll see a couple. I think if you see an overtake, it'll be on the home straight, and it'll be tight, because it's not a long straight at all, that home straight, and it will be DRS, so they will get that good advantage. But yeah, I think the only overtake you'll probably see will probably be like when Red Bulls pit and they end up behind someone. They've got to pass through them. I think they'll get it done. But yeah, I'm not too optimistic. What about you?
I agree. I think the only plus we're likely to see is going to be a Red Bull on something, probably something significantly slower. But no, not massively confident. Saturday's what it's all about, isn't it, really, with Monaco?
Yeah. Well, we'll at the start of next week's episode, we'll let you know how many overtakes there have been. We will find that out and let you know, because I think that'd be quite an interesting stat to come back to.
Yeah.
And if it's a snooze fest, we can then potentially discuss the future of Monaco in the Formula 1 calendar. But yeah, that's all from us. All the best and goodbye.
Bye bye.